Television journalists these days are not smart enough to analyze the news they have to analyze. They're simply not smart enough to do it. They don't know anything about macroeconomics, and they couldn't care less.
Bill O'Reilly joins us, host of No Spin News, the author of the New York Times bestseller, Confronting the President's No Spin Assessments from Washington to Biden. Bill O'Reilly, thank you for coming on the program. Appreciate it. All right, so what do you make of what I've been talking about here, about whether this was he caved or this was a plan, and whether that all matters?
Well, there's two tracks. There's the long-term track and the short-term track. You understand how Donald Trump runs his operation. It's basically run out of emotion and gut feeling. It's not a methodical think tank, Harvard Kennedy School, let's deliberate for months and then we'll decide. So it's one man. He comes in and he's the most powerful guy in the world. And for decades, he said, the United States is getting screwed by every country in the world on trade deals. I, Donald Trump, now have the power to right that wrong, so I'm going to do that. And he uses shock and awe. The problem is that I don't believe the Trump administration was perspicacious. How about that, Abrams? Perspicacious enough to understand the fear that it would cause to the people. Once you get into that zone where the people fear the government, fear turns to hatred. And that is the mistake the Trump people made.
But is it fair to say that this was not just a plan, right? I mean, the folks telling us this was all part of a plan, that's nonsense, right?
It depends what plan you're referring to.
The plan to pause it, meaning was there a plan to sort of get it going and then that they were going to pause it?
No, that was done because President Trump realized that the negatives were overwhelming the positives in the tariff situation. You know, he's a smart guy, and anybody who underestimates his intelligence is a fool. And he can see what the ledger was, what the scorecard was. But the plan from the very beginning was to get more money coming into the United States to rebuild the manufacturing economy and to defeat China's worldwide aspirations through economic warfare. That was the macro plan, and that is still in place.
But how, Bill O'Reilly, how would he have not known? I mean, you know, look, I'm not an economist, but I talk to economists. I talk to the folks who are, you know, the Goldman Sachs people, the JP Morgan people, the people who drive the markets. There were none of them saying that for the economy as a whole, that this would be a good idea, meaning the way that it was laid out. So how could he have not known that this was going to be a problem?
It's a good question, and I think it should be asked of President Trump in the next interview. Did you anticipate this fear and loathing, this panic? And if so, why did you go ahead if you anticipated it? That's an excellent, excellent question that only he can answer. But again, he operates on an emotional level, and if I had to guess, and that's all this is a guess, I would say, it's going to go down and it's going to be a little rough for maybe a week, but then we'll start to get our deals done. Remember, Maloney from Italy is coming in a week from today, and that'll start the domino of the deals. And Trump will get his deals. He's going to get them from everybody but China. There's not going to be one other country that holds out. He'll get them, but it's going to take him a month or so to do that, to line it all up. So he said, we'll bounce it. People will hunker down. But when you're losing 30-40% of your wealth on paper, hunkering down pretty tough.
But you, like me, focus a lot on media coverage and are interested in it. I at least should say that. You and I are both very interested in the way that the media covers big stories. And before you came on, I played sound of your former colleagues, Sean Hannity and and Laura Ingraham, and I think you were on Sean Hannity's radio show even yesterday. And they were, again, making this out to be it's all part of the plan. It's all part of the plan. He's the master at all of this, et cetera. Do you find that to be disingenuous?
That truly is. When I was on Hannity's radio program on Wednesday, I disagreed with him on a number of things. But he's not a phony.
No, he's not.
No,
he's not.
He absolutely believes what he is telling you every night. But there's a wider question here on the media, which I think is going to amuse you since you run this dopey website, Mediaite. This will amuse you. Most television journalists these days are not smart enough to analyze the news they have to analyze. They're simply not smart enough to do it. They don't know anything about macroeconomics, and they couldn't care less. I think about Charles Krauthammer when I was at Fox, Rick Hume. I mean, these guys, these were titans. What I brought every night was obvious, and people responded to it. Now it's a shadow. And what has replaced it is an obsequiousness to the corporation. So the corporation, every single one of them, gives general orders about what you are to do on television. So if you are a conservative channel, you're going to like Trump. If you are a liberal channel, you're going to hate Trump. And there's no dissent out of that. None. Now, people who work in that environment, a lot of them believe the best thing, like Hannity and Laura. They believe that conservative principles are much healthier for the country than left-wing lunacy. That's what they believe.
Right, but conservative principles are different than supporting Trump no matter what he does. Those are just not necessarily the same thing. I think you believe in conservative principles.
I believe in
think
traditional, not conservative.
All right.
There's a difference.
All right. There is. Fair enough. You believe in, let's say, traditional principles. But it's not a conservative principle to say Donald Trump had this plan all along, or sort of figuring out ways to cover up for his mistakes. That's not conservative. That's just sucking up to the president. No?
It depends. So if it all turns out well for President Trump, and it may, China's power might be diminished. Our trade deals might improve dramatically. The U.S. economy might surge. If that all turns out, then your general hypothesis now that these guys are sucking up to Trump blows up. Because
no, it doesn't.
They're right.
No, it doesn't. I'm not saying.
Well, what if they believe what Trump believes?
Well, no. Here's the thing. What if they're saying, both of them, that they don't want to make it sound as you did, that Trump thought about this and effectively changed his mind. He realized this is not a good idea. This isn't working out particularly well. I know that's true what happened. That's not what they're saying. They're saying this was all the plan. This was all part of the plan. Look at what a master he is.
You have to show me that soundbite, because what I've seen from Hannity and Ingraham and the others on Fox News is the overall plan is going to work, not the day-by-day, hour-by-hour machinations. I have not seen that. So I haven't heard anybody. I haven't heard anybody say.
Let me play. I'll play it again, because the truth is, in the context that you're laying it out, I don't know the answer. So let's play it.
I'm just loving the reaction of stupid people. All of these people that have been trying to create in other people's minds that Donald Trump does not know what he's doing. He's going to create a world economic crash. And Donald Trump, it's like whiplash. What are they going to say tomorrow? Oh, he was forced to do this. No. As a matter of fact, the Treasury Secretary, Bessent, just confirmed what I had pretty much understood because I know the guy so well. This was the plan all along.
Come on, Bill.
No, okay.
This is the plan all along.
He's to be pulling out the tariffs that I heard. You guys are just kind of passing each other here. All right, he's Hannity from what, and look, I talked to him on the air for a half an hour yesterday.
Yeah.
He's an overall plan guy. But look, you may be correct. I can't read people's minds.
I got it.
And Hannity's job at this point for Fox News, all right, is to basically put forth that it's better for the country that Donald Trump is president than Kamala Harris. And Hannity is very effective at doing that.
Yeah, he's doing more than that. But,
well, you can take
but I hear you.
Though.
Yeah.
Because on the other side, 3-1, saying that Trump's an idiot and he's trying to do everything so that billionaires can make. I mean, come on, talk about idiocy. So to me, all of that stuff doesn't really mean much. What I'm worried about and what I want you to do something about personally, urge people to be smarter who are getting paid a lot of money on television. Because, and there's like, by the way, you hear by the way 18,000 times a day on television, and you hear we'll see. Hey, we're paying you hundreds of thousands of dollars to say we'll see. I can get a 7-year-old in there to say we'll see. Let's bring something to the table, okay?
This is why Bill O'Reilly's show always is and was interesting, because Bill O'Reilly does his homework, and you'll take on people you don't agree with, and that's hard, right? It's very easy to have someone on your show who you agree with.
You just hit it. It's so much easier being a guest, and your toughest question is, tell me more. Tell me more. And we don't see robust debate much anymore on television. You don't. And if you do have it, you have Scott Jennings versus 18 people. Let's bring in the other 9 now to make fun of Scott Jennings.
But he's good. He's good.
Yeah,
he holds his own.
With this Tiffany Cross thing, I'm doing this on YouTube, by insulting her personally. You don't want to do that. And I've done it in the past. And I regret doing it.
Let me ask you about Trump also issued an executive order yesterday, and he went after both Miles Taylor, who was chief of staff of DHS, as well as Chris Krebs, who was the top cybersecurity official, basically saying that he wants the DOJ to investigate them. He's now saying that, for example, Krebs's cyber security firm that he works at will have no security clearance anymore. Krebs's great sin was that he informed the president that there wasn't any evidence of widespread voter fraud, and that is why the president is coming after him. What do you are you troubled by this?
Well, I don't know. Mike Pence, one word. They were buddies.
What do you mean?
Trump and Pence were buddies until the election. Look.
Yeah, but he's now going after him with the DOJ, he's revoking his firm's.
It's not going to lead anywhere. There's not going to be any indictment or anything like that.
But come on.
Look, if you understand the totality of Donald Trump, and I do, I wrote The United States of Trump. It's the best book ever on the man. He can be very vindictive.
I miss it.
Every president, every single one, including George Washington, who hung 4 guys in Lower Manhattan because he didn't really like them. Washington did, okay? Every president that I can think of had these kinds of personality defects. And that's what confronting the presidents is all about. And as a Christian, I don't believe in revenge. You have to. That would be retribution. I don't. But Trump does.
No, I understand, but I'm now asking you to analyze and judge, right? I'm willing to judge on this issue and say that I find this to be appalling, that he is doing this. It may be who he is, but when you have the power of the government behind you, it's a different story. When you have the Department of Justice at your beck and call, and he is demanding that they investigate a guy where there's no evidence, nothing, there's no wrongdoing, nothing.
I'd have to look.
He just doesn't like the guy.
Yeah, I think this guy Krebs, his father was Maynard G. Krebs of Dobie Gillis, but I'm not sure. I have to look at the resume of the guy before I can make that judgment. I don't know what the guy did. I just don't know.
Come on. Bill O'Reilly would know. If there was something this guy did,
I don't know,
we would know, and certainly Bill O'Reilly would know.
Look, lawyer come out, and I like to interview him and see what this whole thing is about before I drop the anvil.
All right, I'm going to say to Bill O'Reilly the same thing he said to me when I was on No Spin News. Bill, how do we watch more of your commentary and read your latest books? Talk to us about it.
Well, we got Confronting Evil coming out September 9th. Putin's on a cover with the Ayatollah, Hitler, and Mao, and there are 8 others inside, probably as bad as those guys, if you can imagine it. So you can pre-order that. And Confronting the President's been on a New York Times bestseller list for 6 months. Why is that, Abrams? This is why it's important. It used to be you had to be on linear television, any of the networks or cables or what, to sell anything, to market anything. Okay? That's not true anymore. So I got my own YouTube channel. I don't think I've ever even been on YouTube. I am such a, what do they call I can't do any
sensation.
of this. Luddite. I am a Luddite. I don't know anything about it, but I know we have almost 1 million subscribers on that. And then No Spin News is on BillO'Reilly.com. And we have, obviously, distribution everywhere, 300 radio stations around the country.
I think that people don't realize that every one of your books ends up atop the New York Times bestseller list.
19. That's
right.
a world record.
No one wants Bill O'Reilly to succeed. Let's be clear.
That's right.
People don't like you.
They don't like
People
me,
don't like you.
And I am fine with that. Because if you go throughout history, the truth sayers were always the people that got the most ire. Always. And so and I wouldn't say nobody likes me. I mean, I have a bunch.
You have some friends, I'm sure. I'm sure you got some friends, and people will hang out with you and stuff.
And
but
I couldn't be the most.
In general, people don't like you.
I couldn't be the most successful independent news in the world, which we are, if no one liked me.
I guess that's true.